What's going on, folks? Back again with another episode of my Dog's Place. And today I wanted to talk about formal versus informal obedience. Or I should say formal versus informal training, right? Now, when we're talking about formal, this is typically what we're talking about when we say obedience, right? So the sits, downs, place, any type of commands, right? This is the formal side of the training for our dogs. Now, this is very, very important. A lot of dogs, when you create this structure, it obviously looks pretty, it looks nice, you can show off a lot. If you can put your dog in a sit, walk off, they don't move, but it's not everything. The other side of that is the informal training. So when you talk about informal training, you're talking about how they greet others, the crate training, reactivity, and this is just as, if not more important. Nobody really cares if your dog can sit and lay down and stuff like that if they kind of greet people like shit. While formal obedience can definitely help with informal, it makes it a lot easier for sure, right? But it's another animal entirely. When I say it helps a lot, it's when we're teaching informal, it's a lot about the structure. It's a lot about what's the preset criteria that I put in place for my dog. What is the routine? What is my dog used to, the habit that they've formed when, for example, they're greeting somebody, or when they see another dog, or when they're inside the house. For most people, they tend to overlook the informal side of stuff, right? So I'll give you a few examples. You have greeting people, for that's a big one, right? My dog Pachi, a lot of golden doodles, a lot of labs, golden retrievers, a lot of these high energy dogs, German shepherds for sure. If you don't get on top of it, they're going to jump up on people when they greet them. I see this a lot with small dogs too. A lot of bullies, a lot of French bulldogs. They have this tendency to jump up on people when they greet them. And it's on us to either correct them or manage the environment so that they don't do it at all. So we could talk about where this kind of comes from. To not be so long-winded, essentially it's like with everything with dog training, right? We're conditioning a certain behavior. Pachi's a perfect example of this. Pachi is, for the most part, not so big on jumping. However, when he sees my mother, or when he sees, people out and about that do the baby voice, oh my God, he's so cute, he's so cute. This kind of triggers him, right? Because that's the voice and that's the tone that people usually do when he's going to get a bunch of affection. So he starts anticipating that affection, and because it's something that he really wants, it's something that he finds valuable, he's going to kind of lose control, right? Now, we talk about markers, we talk about kind of commands. One way to look at it is this baby voice that you're using with your dog is essentially a command to get your dog to be super hyped up and, start jumping on people. So how do you get on top of this, right? Well, you want to cut the head off the snake, right? So I do this a lot, and I tell people, when you're greeting your dog, get into the habit of not like opening up your arms and kind of like making yourself open to kind of that inviting kind of body language. You don't want to do that, right? When you do this to a dog, the dog is going to jump up on you. Better yet, very relaxed when you greet dogs. And we talked about this in one of the previous episodes, right? But what's your energy when you greet a dog? You should, if you know that the dog has difficulty, has a low threshold for excitement and for affection, and they kind of go ballistic when, you give them, a bunch of good boys and good girls, then you have to be very relaxed. And I would suggest, you kind of start petting them on their back, towards the back of their, towards the tail, so that they, when what that's going to do over time is they're going to start greeting you with their tail end, as opposed to coming up head first like, hey, pet me, right? We don't want that. And while some people might say, oh, I don't mind, yeah, but I do mind. And we have family members that might mind. My grandmother, my mother, my, whatever, older family members, or sometimes we have friends that aren't really dog people. We have to take these things into consideration. And dogs don't do good generalizing with these sort of things. If you go and pet my dog, it's on me to tell you what are the rules of you petting my dog. So as a general rule of thumb, if my dog's on a leash, I don't let him greet anybody. As a general rule of thumb. This kind of sets, obviously this helps when we're teaching the dog to respect the leash and yield to the leash and on walks and stuff like that, but we don't let them greet any other dogs. We don't let them greet, any other, any people while they're on the leash. But we want that criteria to be very, very solid. And again, reactivity is another thing, that we want to keep in mind. Same thing applies though. This is a conditioned sort of response to how they react around dogs. Right off the bat, guys, stop taking your dogs to dog parks. I heard another dog trainer say this, and it was a really, really good, really good advice, a really good tip. Get yourself a, matter of fact, I believe it was Robert Cabral who said this. I might be mistaken, but he suggested that get together with a group of people that have dogs that you trust and you know that they're good dog owners and they're going to, obviously be able to manage their dog well or call them off when they're getting too overly excited, and have that as your group that you socialize your dog with. You do yourself no benefit by taking your dog to the dog park where you're going to have a bunch of dogs with a bunch of behaviors that you couldn't possibly imagine, a bunch of trauma that you couldn't possibly imagine. And most of the time, people take their dogs to the dog park because they have no other place to exercise their dog. So this is how reactivity starts. Some dogs, like people, are more, we could say, introverted, and some are more extroverted. So you have your introverted ones, you have a little bit more, let's say, like, maybe like your mastiffs, like they're a little bit more to themselves, like we could consider, really it's territorial and kind of, guardian-like, but we could call it more introvert in the sense where they're not super happy-go-lucky to greet other dogs. And they, dogs that are prone to animal aggression, we could consider them introverts. And then the extroverts would be like your golden doodles, your golden retrievers, your Labradors. It's not to say that it's, 100%. You're going to have some labs that, are nervous and stuff like that and reactive to other dogs, maybe people. But these are conditioned responses to some sort of trigger, right? So it could be that they've been bitten before. So now they learned that I need to be defensive because I don't want this dog to bite me. I don't want a dog to bite me again. They could have been abused by a human, so they don't want the human to come around them. So now once they get to a certain age, they start understanding that, hey, if I nip or if I bite or if I growl, people start backing up. So it's the same thing. It's a self-reinforcement, I believe is the term, right? And where it's just like, they're it's self-rewarding, right? They think about it like, every time that I stare at somebody, they kind of leave me alone. They get scared of me. Okay, well, I'm going to start giving people a bad look every time I go out. So I hope that makes sense, guys. And, a couple things to keep in mind in terms of getting good informal obedience, right? Like, formal obedience is very, for the most part, it's easy, right? It's the informal that kind of makes or breaks whether you have a well-behaved dog. But a couple things you should keep in mind to get good formal training. I mentioned this already, but you want to socialize your dog as well. You want to give the dog good experiences with people, with dogs, environments. Like, you have you ever seen a dog that you drop something on the ground, let's say like a plate or something like that, and they get super scared? Well, that's that skittishness, that nervy type of attitude. For certain dogs, it could make them react in a bad way. It could make them a little bit nervous, and this is, you don't know how a dog might react for this, towards this. So definitely you want to give them good experiences around these different things, and this is always contingent on what your lifestyle is going to be. So if you don't see a lot of people, if you're not very social yourself, well, at very least get your dog comfortable with the people that you do see often. If your dog doesn't go out and interact with many other dogs, well, make sure that at very least he has some good association with dogs, so that when you're on a walk, you're going down the street with your dog, going out to get your mail, and you just happen to take your dog out, your dog's not going to react to one of the neighbor's dogs, in a bad fashion. No dog parks for sure. That's not something you want to do. Again, I go to dog parks only for specific type of training, and I try to go when there's not a lot of dogs. The only time that I've gone when there's dogs is when I have a dog that's super solid, I have him on a leash, and I'm intentionally looking to test the dog in these different environments, and it's, again, you're kind of rolling the dice here, right? But again, you have to be very on point for these things. I wouldn't suggest this for anyone who's not a dog trainer, right? Because you don't know what to look for. Just to kind of, give you a little bit of context, if I take a dog to the dog park, no dog could come up and greet my dog. I don't care what you say, I don't care anything, and I'm getting in front of that. And if I need to, then yeah, I'm gonna shoo that other dog away. No one comes up to my dog while I'm at the dog park. Matter of fact, no dog should be coming up to your dog unwarranted, ever. And if they do, you need to step in front of your dog and vouch for your dog, so that your dog knows that you will step in and you will handle the situation. A lot of the times this reactivity comes from from the owner's lack of being able to step in and take control of the situation. So the dog now gets into this mode where, oh, I need to handle this because mom or dad obviously can't handle this. The dog is nervous, and you need to step in for your dog so that they don't think that this behavior is acceptable. Understand what your dog likes and dislikes, right? And we talked about this is very contingent on what your lifestyle is with your dog. So if your dog dislikes the water, yeah, you could potentially, dump him. You could take him to the beach a bunch of times and then just have him do it. But like, for example, Pachi, he's short, stubby, he has short legs, so he doesn't really like the beach. He doesn't really like the water. He likes the pool. He likes when it's like very shallow and he can lay down in it and cool off. But he doesn't like it when he can't feel his feet on the ground. So I don't take him to the beach that much. But Luffy, he's part lab, loves the beach. So I have to keep these things into consideration. While Pachi is desensitized to the water, I'm not gonna go beyond that and go to the beach all the time because I love the beach. That's not fair to my dog. I need to know what my dog's strengths and weaknesses are, as well as what my dog's character is and personality, so that I'm not being unfair and putting him in situations that are making him nervous, or making him uncomfortable, for that matter. Vouch for your pets. I already said this before. Want to make sure that we're stepping in whenever another person comes up to our dog and we see that their body language is not that. So we say this a lot, and this is probably one of the hardest things for people to accept. If you are training your dog, if your dog specifically is leash training, is reactive a little bit, kind of suffers from, I shouldn't say suffers, but struggles with a low threshold for excitement, make sure that you tell people when they ask, can I pet your dog? Tell them, no, you can't, my dog is training. Oh, but listen, step the hell off. Don't pet my dog right now. He's training. Some people are going to be pretty pushy. You need to get as rude as you as rude as you need to get, you need to do that, because it's not fair to your dog that they don't like greeting people. They don't like random people putting their hand in their face, and you're just kind of letting them do it because you don't feel like, you feel like it would be rude to tell the person not to touch your dog. You have to step in and you have to tell them, please, my dog is training. You can say it nicely. If they're persistent, you're gonna have to be a little bit rude. And then of course, guys, set structure. Crate training, etc. How they behave in the house. This all comes down to structure. Teach your dog a place command. Teach your dog how to hang out in the crate. Put a bed in the crate. Put bone marrows or toys or chew toys, whatever, in the crate to make it more fun. Practice them not interacting with your guest when your guests come over. These are all things that you set a certain type of structure, and over time your dog is going to catch on and realize that this is more of a habit. So you're counter conditioning, or ideally you want to condition this from the beginning when you first get your puppy, right? But in certain situations, because we adopt shelter dogs, sometimes this isn't possible. You just have to counter condition it. And this is why I say formal obedience makes the informal training easier, but only because you have something to hold them accountable for. So for example, I put my dog to place. If my dog gets up, now I can hold them accountable for getting off a place, not for going off and greeting my guest. I have my guest over, I put you in the crate, or I put you on a place cot, I put you in a down, I put you in a sit, and you need to stay there until I give you a release command, right? If you get up, if you move, I'm holding you accountable for breaking that command, not for greeting this person. We don't want them to think greeting this person is going to get me in trouble, because then they're gonna have a bad, then they might develop a suspicious association with people or with dogs, and that's definitely not something we want. And last, definitely not least, never become overly confident in your dog, or you're gonna have to put your money where your mouth is. What do I mean? If you know that your dog has bad recall, stop letting your dog run out the house off leash. Your dog is at risk of getting into a dog fight, of going up and running up to somebody and making their training or their situation with their dog bad, getting hit by a car, whatever. If you know that your dog is not well behaved, you need to put a leash on your dog. If you know that your dog doesn't have good recall, if you know that you have to put him in situations in which you know he's going to fail. You can't just wing it and be like, oh yeah, well, maybe he might. Like, if you call your dog once and they don't respond, you need to have a leash on your dog every single time you go out. I'm sorry, but it's just the way it is. Never get overly confident in your dog. A dog bite, I hear, is $50,000 if they bite somebody. So unless you have $50,000 that you can just kind of throw around, I really suggest that you don't get overly confident in your dogs. At this point, 2 years in, I can take my dogs off leash, but sometimes they have a knee collar on, and sometimes I still take them out with a leash, a slip lead, whatever, because I can't be too overly confident. I need some way of holding them accountable. Or at very least, I don't want my neighbors or people, other people, nervous that there's an off-leash dog. And as dog owners, we have that responsibility to not make other people uncomfortable. Just because we know our dog doesn't mean that other people know their dog. So that's about it. Again, guys, thank you for tuning in. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, if you have any questions at all, if you have any ideas, any type of videos that you'd like me to, any type of videos that you want me to make, any type of concepts that you'd like me to cover, let me know in the comments. Reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to make it happen. But again, guys, thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys next time.